You guys are all set up. We'll begin. Hello, my name is Tyson Stock, and I will be the timekeeper for the day. Before we continue, I would just like to confirm that this is Team B.
That's right.
Perfect. So basically how this is going to work in terms of rulings, I will show time card signs for when there's 10, 5, 2 minutes remaining, as well as 30 seconds. And then the final 10 seconds will be a countdown from my fingers like this. Once the final 10-second countdown is up, I will say stop, after which the team must stop talking immediately. And then following that, there will be a 10-minute question and answer period from the judges. I would like to remind you that all team members must present for a minimum of 15 minutes, as well as all team members must speak throughout the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A period. Audience members, we ask that you please place your phones on silent mode throughout the duration of the presentation, as well as the Q&A period. I will now let the judges introduce themselves, and once they are done, we will begin with the presentation, and the time will start. Judges?
Hello guys, Gabriel Pullman, Senior Manager, Business Strategy at JMUCC.
Hi everyone, Eliza Minier, Manager in Transfer Pricing at EY.
Hi, Connie Pacifico, Executive Coach.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Lee. I'm the Lead for Governance and Cybersecurity at the Health Insurer for the Quebec office.
Time whenever starts when you begin.
Good morning, judges. Today, our client is Nesto Cloud. Our objective today is to help them scale, help them become the technology mortgage provider of tomorrow. And the question is, how do we achieve that? Our first question is, do our clients, do our customers who are the financial institutions know that they need us? And if they do they come to us? Our strategy today is to make sure that Nesto becomes the answer.
To begin with, let's talk about the strengths of Nesto Cloud. So the first strength is reduced operational costs. Why? Because the high integration of technologies like artificial intelligence have allowed us to optimize our processes, making it the right approach for any company that wants to implement our software. On the second hand, we have improved customer experience. So we offered a streamlined way of communication within the industry, as well as offering a service that can suit all of our different clients. And lastly, in terms of seamless integration, we offer an API-first nature that allowed our clients to integrate it towards their business structures.
So let's understand our customer, our client landscape. As you can see on the graph over here, most of the mortgage customers are going to non-banks. Large banks, smaller banks, all types of banks are experiencing a downward trend. Almost around 10 to 15% in the last 10 years. Why is that? The main two reasons is speed and cost. In terms of speed, customers are going to non-banks because it's a comparison of minutes versus hours or even days. They want something quick. They want to get their mortgage right then and there. Second reason is cost. There's a lag in their system. It's old, and this causes an increase in cost for each of their mortgage. The main drivers is outdated legacy system. Like mentioned, they're attached to their systems that they are using right now. It's almost 1970s or the 90s system that they're still using in today's age. Second is slow approvals. 50% of financial institutions are facing serious infrastructure issues. They updated the mobile apps, which we see today, but their back-end system continues to stay outdated. And finally, expensive workarounds. 70% of their IT budgets remains to keeping these old systems running. We could use this to employ people like Nesto Cloud that can actually make it faster. So what do these banks need? A fully integrated end-to-end system that will drive speed and also reduce cost. Now we know that our client is the head of mortgage. This is the first main point of contact Nesto Cloud have with their clients. So let's say we have a client here, Brian. Brian's the head of mortgage in one of the banks in Canada. What is his 3 decision pillars in choosing their mortgage tech partner? First is compliance audit. They want to look into the SOC1, SOC2, ISO 2700. They need non-negotiable evidence of compliance. They need to know that Nesto Cloud or whoever they're partnering with have the required regulation compliance that is up to Canadian standard. They need this to mitigate the risk of data security on all the other risks. Second is scalability tests. They need performance data, API uptime, infrastructure capability, and they need this because they want to handle high volume, fluctuating mortgage demand. They know that the mortgage landscape keeps changing and they need to know the system can keep up with that. And finally, provider reputation. They need to know that the vendor's market standing is sustainable and long-term. User case studies and financial health. They need this because they need to ensure that they can have long-term partnership with their partner. They don't want to keep changing because the moment they integrate, it's hard to let go. And as you notice, these 3 decision pillars is also the same 3 key challenges that Nesto Cloud is facing. It's trust, because they don't know if they can mitigate the risk. Friction of switching partners, because they need to know whether it's scalable. And finally, sustained use post-implementation. They need to know that they can trust and continue being the partners of this technology mortgage company. So overall, after all I've said, what is the main strategy? As you may notice, our expertise is reduce operational costs, improve customer experience, and seamless integration, as explained by my colleague over there. And clients are looking for the same thing, reduce costs, speed, and compliance and scalability. So overall, what are we providing? Nesto Cloud have exactly what clients are looking for. And the gap is to show that Nesto Cloud can bring these same benefits with zero stress and complexity.
Thank you, Claribel. Now, we know that the industry need is there, the industry opportunity is there, and most importantly, that Nesto Cloud has all the features and capabilities that our clients are looking for. Therefore, what's the gap right now? We need to just looking into the typical B2B funnel. First, we need to attract prospects. Secondly, build engagement. And then third, turn the opportunities into clients. So lastly, we can ensure the use of the platform as it's one of the main drivers of revenue. Nesto Cloud is mainly focusing on turning opportunities into clients. However, it's missing that main part on building engagement. If we go back to Brian is that mortgage chief officer at some bank that it's having some needs beyond the bank. It has pressures and it wants to follow the industry expertise. So our solution focuses on a 3-step, focusing on first, how do we create a sales strategy to build engagement through the expertise that already Nesto Cloud has. Secondly, how do we sell it one-on-one on a personalized basis to the executives? And lastly, how do we integrate that into also our post-sales strategy to not only ensure the success of our customers, but also ensure that that feasibility, scalability, and adoption is there to enable all the different capabilities that Nesto Cloud has to bring. Thank you.
Now let's talk about how do we attract all these C-suite executives. Are we going to be one of those companies where we end up in the mailbox or the cold email which they never see? No. We will be taking a different approach. We will be talking in person. We will be creating meaningful connection with them. And how do we do that? We will be going to Canadian's Finance Summit in 2026 and 2027, consecutive 2 years. And why are we doing this? Because Canadian Finance Summit is one of the biggest summit in Canada, where over 1,000 C-suite executives in banking industry comes together. They share industry insights and they build new relationships. From here, our industry experts will explain, in the mortgage industry, this is what's happening and this is why you need to change, for them to understand that they need the Nesto Cloud. And from here, we will, at the conference, we will be having technology sponsor where we have exclusive branding and pop-ups, and also our industry experts will be sharing the insights. As well as we will have a networking to acquire our new potential C-suite customers, which our industry experts and sales team will be doing. And speaker sessions as well. And finally, ultimately, these will lead to acquiring new clients through relationship building and sharing industry insights to create the need for them to use us. And you might be wondering, was there any use cases before? Yes, there was. Criteo, it's another B2B SaaS company. They had on-site sales teams in the conference where they have closed 1.53 million in signed agreements. And now moving on, after we build the relationship, so what is going to happen? C-suite executives, they want personalized approach. Therefore, we are giving them the best personalized approach ever, having one sales team person and one industry expert talking to, handling the 10 C-suite executives. The client customized pitch, we will have the client customized pitch, which starts with the research on the company itself. What is the client and what do they do? And what is their specific needs and ask? And from there, we will specify our pitch and we will lead to our new sales. From here, we will build trustworthy relationships with our each client, each single of them, making sure they feel very personalized. And finally, we will sell the product with our high quality customized pitch. Also, it will turn later into having this trustworthiness and being a trusted advisor to our client as well. We also have another use case from Drift, who deployed this conversational chat real time with the customers and qualifying 250% growth as well. Finally, we will be continuing our relationship with our client, being a trusted advisor. And here we will be doing change management and customization scalability, which my colleague Alejandro here will talk about.
Thank you, Engin. Talking more about our post-sales strategy, we have two main aspects that we want to focus on. First, the change management pillar. So what does this imply? What we want to do is basically not only provide the service, but also consistently train the employees of our clients to make sure that they can actively use it. And that's why we want to elaborate a 4-month training program upon software updates to make sure that they can consistently keep using our products to the maximum performance. Apart from that, we also want to establish a customization of scalability aspect. This means that we want to make sure that we can provide the best product for the right time. We want to be there when our clients actually need us. And that's why we want to provide assessments every 6 months to confirm that client needs match what our software is giving them. So the idea with this is basically to make these assessments to make sure that we can know their specific needs, maybe if some industry trends are shifting what we need to do, and also to make sure that their infrastructure is ready for the scalability of our software. And lastly, we want to inform clients about our personalized solutions based on this approach so that we can address their needs and make sure that this is scalable for the long run. So why will these strategies be effective? First, because providing periodic training as part of our service will help to ensure cost reduction for our clients and to have a fast-paced working space in which they can learn. Secondly, ensuring that communication of resources will allow us as well for their employees to learn consistently about our software, even if we're in between training sessions, right? So if we've trained, 4 months ago, they'll be able to check the resources we're having and they'll be able to address their doubts about our software or about our updates. Then we'll also consistently assessing the needs, evolvement for our customers will allow us to offer this personalized perspective, and offering these updated deals will allow us to bring this to the long-term picture, which is what we want for our program.
Now, there are two main things when we're thinking, what are the risks? How do we implement this? The plan sounds great, but how do we actually make it something that is implementable? The first thing is, what resources do we have? The main two resources, it's not only the money, but also the people. The people at Nesto Cloud will be key. And that's why we did an assessment on what is the current capabilities that the employees at Nesto Cloud bring, and how can we just not only evolve those, but take them into the next level that align into our plan, and each of them has a significant part of our 5-year implementation plan. So first we have demo experts that right now they're showing to the clients how the tool works, and they know about the solution. So they can become our system experts that later on they will not only manage that implementation, but when further scalability, let's say your company now has more employees, therefore it needs an upgrade of the system, or the needs of the market has evolved, and therefore your specific custom solution that you have tailored for you needs to evolve. Therefore the system experts will come into hand. Secondly, we have all of these regulatory experts within Nesto Cloud, but they also know what are the trends, what are the needs, and what's going on out there. These will become our industry experts, where at the beginning, they will become a key figure when we are doing that expertise and we are doing that outreach through the expertise, where the idea is not to sell, but to provide that guidance. Imagine you are at a chat. You want something from the other people. The best advice is always get something before you even ask for something. That's our Nesto Cloud strategy. Our industry experts will provide that expertise that they are having before even selling anything, and that will convert later into a sale thanks to our product experts. The product experts focus more right now on the operational side of things. They help also with the implementation plan to tailor the solution, and these exact people will not only be the salesperson will create a customized pitch at the very beginning, but also alongside of the change management plan and the scalability implementation, they will be helping and assisting not only the solution itself, but also the processes inside the company on how we can enable all the employees of our client to use our system and therefore drive more revenue. Now, the second constraint is our resource. Really quick, an average implementation revenue per client right now is $10,000. Now, considering our client needs and our main differentiator, which is being cost efficient, we are recommending to reduce the implementation cost to $5,000. That's 50% discount, and we will consider that $5,000 as just customer acquisition cost. Secondly, we're expecting 12,000 average annual revenue per client. If we consider a 4-year time cycle of each client, just to be on the worst case scenario, that's around $48,000 of lifetime value per client without considering the implementation cost. And therefore, if we consider a $5,000 discount of implementation per client plus $1,000 marketing and promotion spend per client, that would be, for example, in the conference, it costs around $80,000 to be sponsor of each year. In total, $160,000 for the 2 years, which come around $100 per client, plus other expenses to keep providing that expertise and increasing maybe the headcount. That would be a 1-to-8 customer acquisition ratio, which is very healthy for a software as a service company. Now, if we also take an average of $2,000 cost per client for change management and any implementation changes that it needs in the future to make sure that that lifetime support and scalability support throughout the lifetime cycle of a client is it's efficient, that will ensure that by 2027 we'll have 2,400 new clients. But not only that, also we will ensure the success of our clients. Now we can move into the implementation timeline that Alejandro can talk more.
Thank you, Gabriel. Following the structure we mentioned before, this is the implementation timeline. During the first 2 years, 2026 and 2027, we're going to implement this attraction phase where we want to engage with the customers. So we will basically repeat actions from 2026, have incoming new sales from the leads, and start implementing what we mentioned. We want to make sure that we can involve them in the conference and make them to get their interest. Then following up, on the next 4 years, 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030, we want to implement the change management and customization of scalability because we understand that this process is going to take way more time. We want to make sure to give each of our clients the proper time so that they can implement the training, make sure that we can guide them throughout the whole process, and make sure that we can demonstrate them that this service is scalable throughout time. We've seen how many volatility and how many things have been happening in the mortgage industry, so we think this is the best approach. So here's like a clear detail of which employees, which is the workflows we're going to use for each of these different solutions, and the things we're going to do as well. We want to focus on the end of the day goal, which is to reach the long-term scalability and make sure that we can keep our customers in this consistently changing market.
The question is no longer if we have the proper resources or our product is offering what the industry has. The question is about, is Nesto Cloud ready to take the steps it needs to ensure that we are targeting the customers in the correct way and we're sustaining them for long-term growth? Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. The presentation is up. We will now begin the question and answer period. Friendly reminder, the Q&A period has a maximum length of 10 minutes, and we will take it over to judges for the questions.
I'll start with a question. On that slide specifically, I don't see any sales team after 2028. What happens to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can start. So the idea is to acquire 2,400 customers in 27 and 28, and then focus 28, 29, 20, and 2030 to not only retain those customers, but ensure the success, ensure that they are ready to adopt our platform, and the focus would be more on increasing the volume of transactions using Nesto Cloud.
Are they talking end customers or you're talking financial institutions?
Financial institutions.
2,400 financial institutions.
That's the estimate provided, yes.
Could you just clarify, because in Canada I thought we were talking about the big six before.
Yeah, as we mentioned, we're not only focusing on the big banks, but also on the fintechs or the credit unions in Canada.
On so the credit unions, you're counting them as one by one. 'Cause there's
Exactly,
Thank you.
exactly.
Okay.
Would you go on the wholesale strategy slide, please? Yes. I'm not sure I understand when you're saying providing periodic training as part of your service while you are elaborating a four-month training program. Like, I'm not sure. Like, would you do you kind of build a package that you give to the financial institution, or you give periodic training? Not sure. I understand.
Yes, it's all part of the same package. So we understand that there's a lot of changes in the industry, and this process is going to keep getting evolving, right? So as we incorporate new technology, we want to make sure that they feel that they get a good value just from choosing us. So over the last years in the industry, there's a lot of things that are changing. People are likely to switch their mortgage to other sort of companies, and we know that as well that time for compromise has increased. So in other words, what we need is to keep our customers by showing that we're more valuable in some other ways as well. And this way, through training and integrating that in our package, is our main way to do so.
Okay. And on the same side, inform client about personalized solution that can be offered and address their need. How do we inform them? Like, what is the strategy like behind the communication plan? Like, how do we inform client? Like,
Yes. So the first aspect of the communication plan is basically analyzing what has changed in the industry, what technologies have changed, what do they need now. Because maybe their needs right now are not their needs from like a couple of years ago, because a lot of things are changing, as I mentioned. So what we want to do is to make these scalable. One of the things and one of the criteria that these companies value the most is basically being reliable over time. And for us, reliability means giving an assessment. And once we give that assessment, we're able to offer, okay, if now you need this specific thing integrated for your solution, we can add this feature up so that you don't feel persuaded by other companies or feel like our product's not fully suiting your integrated space, which is the main concept of why these products are so successful.
And just to add on, that's part of the rationale of having our sales team to start in 2027. So that same sales team will have the same headcounts. Some of them, they will be dedicated to the customization of scalability. They will be providing, they were the ones who first assessed the business and had their needs and customized the solution, and they will keep assessing the business every 12 months, every 6 months to see what are those evolving needs.
I have a question, because at the beginning you talked about what's important is cost effectiveness for your end client. How are you looking at cost effectiveness for us, for this company? Because I'm hearing a lot about customized solution, and that usually means sur mesure, which means it's challenging. How are you looking at the company's cost effectiveness?
Essentially, what our clients are looking for is, apologies, is essentially the cost of building that mortgage package itself.
Mm-hmm.
So cost as in making sure that for each mortgage that they sell to customers like us is cheaper. And the way to solve that is through improving their current system.
Yeah.
And the one who provides that current system, that updated system, is Nesto Cloud. And through our strategy, it is to make sure we know that Nesto Cloud has the right system. It is upgraded, they're up to date. It's just to make sure that they come to Nesto Cloud instead of our competitors. And what we have mentioned is that strategic advantage.
And when you're customizing for all these clients, how are you going to look at your own cost effectiveness? It's kind of my question.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, right? By customizing, we mean more like taking all of the out-of-the-box capabilities that Nesto Cloud has and bringing the correct ones to the client. So not necessarily building from scratch from production the tools, but what the current capabilities, because it's an end-to-end mortgage solution. So how do we bring those to the needs of the client? Because not all of them will need that end-to-end cycle.
Okay, definitely understand that. Thank you.
Yes.
Can we go back to the persona that we used in the first? Brian, yes. address the ethical norms of the industry and AI, etc., etc.
Yeah, so most of that comes down to the compliance audit, which is essentially whether they are up to the industry standard in terms of AI, data security. We know that these banks are handling so much personal data, and they need to know that these data are safe with us, with Nesto Cloud. And so this compliance audit, which Nesto Cloud already have SOC2 and SOC1, they are ready to prove to these potential clients, these financial institutions, that we can handle these data safe and up to standard.
I'll take the last one.
Yeah.
Stay for the last.
Would you go on the Canadian Finance Summit slide, please? Okay. You mentioned that you wanted to partner there to show expertise. When I'm looking at the conference, I don't necessarily see expertise sharing. I see like what the market is about. Like I can just do research on AI and find that stuff. So how would we show our expertise?
So that's a great question. Thank you so much. First of all, through the technology sponsor, it's a package in the Canadian Finance Summit. So in the sponsorship package, they include the speaker, and then the panel discussion will be from our industry. So in the panel discussion, we will be able to put our industry experts in the client panel discussion, so they will discuss about it, and it will looks like, oh, a lot of people are discussing about it, so this must be the case. So that will be the panel discussion is coming up as well.
Will it create a need amongst the market that they need us to speak about the market?
Yes, we believe so, and the reason why we believe that is because now we have 4 different industry experts.
Yeah.
And it's not just one person, we will believe 4 people more, and those 4 people might have some different informations that the industry experts might not have before. They might have missed before, and those 4 people will be able to provide that information, and we will also make sure our industry experts will provide the information where it hasn't been very much relevant, or not relevant, it hasn't been too much shared in the banking industry, so that they will realize, oh, this is the problem and we need to fix this. And how do we fix this? This Nesto Cloud is the situation. Yes.
Thank you.
We have time for about 1 or 2 more questions.
Okay. The last question. What is the key challenge that you had to face before you gather your mind and deliver this strategy?
That's a great question. I love it. It's first, it was just understanding not only our clients and even what was the landscape, but what were the constraints that we were working with, right? And what were the main challenges proposed in there. So we had trust, we had a high friction, and we also needed to enable the platform for keep using the customers. So how do we not only work on silos on each of the questions of the case, but how do we create an end-to-end strategy that considers everything and brings together into a single package that not only tailors the trends and the industry, but the client itself?
We have time for 1 more question if you guys would like.
Go ahead, it was answered.
If you had 3 hours more, what would you have done?
I think we would definitely look much deeper on how we can implement it long term. Our current solution is only for the next 4 to 5 years, but we know that the plan does not stop there. How do we continue to make Nesto Cloud have a sustainable competitive advantage that they continue to be the chosen one for the financial institutions? So if we have more time, we would definitely research and make a longer implementation timeline, thinking about what is the future beyond that 4 to 5 years. What do these financial institutions need?
Quick round of applause for that. All right, so that concludes the question and answer period. Thank you, delegates, and thank you, judges, for your participation. Aside from the judges, I will ask everyone to leave the room so that we can start the deliberation period. Thank you so much for your time. Congrats on the presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I need to start.
I want them both in one package. Je veux les deux solutions dans une
So sorry, guys. But really quick before I step out and give you guys all the privacy that you need, judges, this is the end of the first head-to-head matchup. I will now wait outside with the rest of the teams for a 20-minute period while you, for the deliberation period in which you'll decide how to allocate the 15 points between the two teams. Just a little bit of a reminder in terms of how to allocate these points. You must give a minimum of 3 points to one of the teams. When you have decided on a score, I will kindly ask the lead judge to fill in the score sheet. I'll notify you when you have 2 minutes to wrap up deliberating and approving the score. When the 20 minutes is up, please place the score sheet inside the pad folio, as this will be picked up by a member of the organization committee. I will then call in the first team and their coach from this matchup, so Team A, into the room so you can give feedback to the teams for 10 minutes. After you give feedback to the first team, I will then bring in the second team, and I will now leave you all to deliberate the scores. I'll be outside if you guys have any questions or concerns. I will be back when there is a 2-minute warning.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. Also, water is here if you guys if you guys need any. I appreciate the understanding of the technical difficulties as well. Thank you so much, guys. You should have access to the So here, I'll get started. Hello, my name is Tyson Stock. I'm going to be your timekeeper for the day. Before we continue, I would just like to confirm that you guys are Team C. Fantastic. All right, move forward. So in terms of how this is going to work in terms of rulings, I will lift up these signs and state whether there is 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, 2 minutes left, or the final one, which is 30 seconds. And then for the last 10-second countdown, I will show it like this. After this countdown is completed, you may not speak after that. I will say stop out loud, in which you guys need to stop presenting. After which a 10-minute Q&A presentation will follow. I would like to remind you that all teams must present for a minimum of 15 minutes, and all team members must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A period. Audience members, we please ask that you put your phones on silent mode and remain seated in your seats for the duration of the presentation and the Q&A period. Once they are done, you may begin your presentation, and I will take it over to the judges to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. Gabriel Poland, Senior Manager, Business Strategy at IG Wealth.
Hi everyone, Alana Mundini, Manager in Transfer Pricing at EY.
Connie Pacifico, Executive Coach.
My name is Nada Tani. I'm the lead of cybersecurity governance at JMUCC. And we'd be pleased if you tell us your names.
Yeah, I'm Joseph McElroy.
Asa Ernest. Grady Marshall. And I'm Garrett Rizzo.
Yeah, and like we said, we're Team C, and we're here to present our solutions and recommendations for Nesto Cloud. Moving into our executive summary, we were asked to solve and make recommendations for 3 key problems, with those being overcoming switching cost, building customer trust, and driving sales volume and usage volume in our customer base. As you can see currently, and in the projections that we were given, we're seeing these problems manifest as stagnant sales growth over the sales period. Now, let's get into what are our recommendations for solving these problems. Looking at the analysis of the market, we see that Nesto Cloud has some clear advantages that we can communicate to customers, with those being our focus and deep expertise in Canada and our dedicated and specific AI integrations. Now, our specific solutions looking at overcoming switching costs is going to be pushing those specific niche advantages to our customers and implementing dedicated customer officers that are specifically looking at our key end markets, which we'll get into later. And becoming a trusted partner, we're going to change our marketing strategy to focus specifically on our certifications, our brand, and acquiring new cybersecurity certifications to build that trust. And like we said earlier, those new chief customer roles are going to specifically work throughout the customer relationship life to encourage usage of the product, make sure the customers know the product, and encourage usage and volume. As like I said, our business model is dependent on those take rates and on customer usage.
Awesome. Kind of building off of that, let's start with our situation overview, right? I think the best way to kind of put where we're at right now, specifically even with the financial services industry, but across the board. This is kind of, like I like to say, we're in the eye of the perfect storm here, right? Like AI is pulling everything into a new frontier. But we've kind of already been through the first part of the storm, and we can kind of look and adjust and see where do we need to be. How do we get Nesto Cloud to retain their spot as the top player in this new frontier of mortgage lending in Canada? Right, and again, why is it a perfect storm, right? It's not just that we can see and evolve and change how we're doing our processes, but if we look at the macro environment, it's ultra favorable for where Nesto Cloud operates. Right, we're looking at rising disposable income among Canadians, lowering of interest rates. The mortgage market's exploding, and this is a really pivotal opportunity for Nesto Cloud, where we can the company can solidify itself as that top player. And that's kind of what we're going to hammer home throughout the rest of this presentation. Additionally, right, another key focus is the demand for AI integration is there, and it's real. People want to, but there's too many companies on the fence right now. And if we're talking about specifically the financial services industry, right, a large part of where Nesto Cloud currently operates is with, credit unions, right? Like local regional banks. This is too volatile. We can't afford to cut corners and to not have a perfectly outlined plan as we move into this new era of mortgage lending. And that's what we're going to hammer home throughout the rest of our presentation.
Right, next kind of moving into our proposal and strategy, there's 4 main things we want to hit. First, All of these things are going to move Nesto Cloud from the old version into the new version of a customer first and a clear value add business. The 4 things we're going to hit is we're going to provide them with an ideal internal structure for their growth. Next, supporting that ideal structure is the roles and responsibilities we need to add in order to implement this growth. Finally, we were going to move into our sales strategy for a business-to-business market and what challenges we need to overcome and how we do that. And again, supporting that, how do we implement a post-sales service that is a clear value add, not just at implementation, but throughout the entire life of the client's business.
To go a bit into this internal structure, we see Nesto Cloud as having a fantastic position to establish themselves as the premier customer-first banking product for these firms, and we want to shift their corporate structure to prove this. Our first step is we want to hire a chief customer officer. This is where the buck stops on all customer relations. We want a person whose job it is at the top to say, hey, these are our customer goals. These are our customers' internal goals, external goals, and here's how we're going to get to them. And then specific customer heads that will be specific to the customer. This is someone who's divorced a bit from the sales team, and their job is to find what's best in the customer's interest, to provide solutions, and to find what this specific customer's problem is before it gets up there. This is someone who's intimately involved. Next, everyone's talking about it, data-driven solutions. We want the data. We want to be talking to our customers in both quantitative and qualitative data and making sure we're returning solutions that fits the specific problems of the customers. We have a couple statistics here that are going to show why this is important. I specifically, like 22% of Fortune 100 companies have this CCO position, and we think that we are in a specific position where we actually need this. On to the next slide. The roles and responsibilities. Like I said a bit, the chief customer officer before the sale. This is someone who is in the pitches, especially the larger ones. This is someone who's having conversations before we even sign the contract with the stakeholders, making sure our platform can solve for their issues, and it's going to be a platform that they're going to want to use as we make money on a take rate from mortgages they print using our services. Same with the customer head. We want them in the pitch. We want them positioning themselves as a friend of the customer, as someone who's intimately involved in what they're doing. And after the sale, CCO continuing to call the stakeholders, especially the higher up stakeholders, and the customer head talking to the people who are actually using this product on a daily basis. Hey, what are you struggling with? What are your roadmaps? What can we do to make sure you're using our service more efficiently and better? Really optimizing the whole thing. Looking at their current org chart, they have a lot of fantastic people who are great at what they do, but they don't have a specific customer outlined role as of right now, hence why we're going to hire one. And this is probably going to be an outside position. And then looking at people then running the positions inside of it, we see there's a lot of people who could be due for internal promotions who might be able to shift to this sort of position, especially someone running traditional lending, running the credit unions, running the fintech, running the alternative lenders for the customer solutions, not sales. And then obviously customer heads for every client.
Right, now moving into kind of the sales strategy we're building here and overcoming some of the challenges that Joe had mentioned at the very beginning. Briefly covering those, again, it's the friction associated with changing partners, and that's the banks being able, they have a ton of data, right? And being able to move that onto a brand new platform without losing any of that data is usually very, very hard. The next is gaining partner trust, obviously with security and technology risks. This is at the forefront of everyone's mind when gaining a new partner. Finally, it's ensuring the use of the platform post-implementation. Our money comes from them using the platform, the take rates, them originating new loans. First, starting with friction, there's really two parts of this. First is kind of the infrastructure. When we implement this software for the banks, we want to do it ourselves. We want to train our employees to know how to do this. We want them to become experts in our software and how to implement it in any single case scenario, right? We don't really want to have to rely on a third party to do this. But some clients may prefer that an outside partner or an outside implementation program is used. We want to have quality partners that we train them on how to use our software, and we want to set quality standards that upholds the brand. Next is kind of the marketing scheme of this, and this is in the pitch. We want case studies and statistics that show seamless transitions for past projects and show that we are reliable. Next, moving into security, this is really a two-pronged approach. We currently have a couple marketing tools that we can use for existing qualifications. As you can see here, the SOC 1, SOC 2, and an ISO certification. The thing we can do in the future as well is hire a third-party security service. And there's really two ways to do this. One is you can get your team trained. Every single IT person in the business can get trained and certified by one of these two businesses. We can also just hire their services as an add-on to our current security services just to add that peace of mind. Finally, the post-implementation use, there's really three things I want to hit on. We want consistent value add post-implementation. One of this is data analytics. We want to solve problems before the question is asked, right? Next is we want improved marketing strategies for the customers. If they're not originating enough loans, like how do we help them do that? Is it search engine optimization using our AI tools? Finally, and the most important, is exceptional customer and IT support. These businesses every day have tens of thousands of dollars on the line. We don't want them to sit on hold for 3 hours to try to fix an issue, right? Because that costs them customer money.
Awesome. And this next pillar can't be overlooked. We're looking at our post-sales servicing plan. We've had the fortunate opportunity of working in a financial institutions group in a bank, and this is often, way too often, where the game is won or lost. The big players at the top of every, all of these platform servicing spaces, they don't cut corners here. And we can talk numbers all day, but the truth is how you recur and keep your customers and you bring people to your platform. Obviously having a great service to provide is huge. But Nesto Cloud has that, right? We don't, and they have no plans on slowing that back. But how we do it is how are we taking care of the client, right? Trust is such a big part of this. And it starts with client education. When that client moves to our platform, it's, okay, how are we getting people to them? Bringing people to them and making sure everybody in their business and in their organization using this is on the same page, right? We all have our processes that we do at work and the things, and there might be pain points in our current process. But the important part with them is how do we get people to believe in either shifting to our platform and then staying there? And that customer education piece is huge because everyone, especially with their revenue model that's reliant on the client using their service, everyone top to bottom needs to be on the same page from day one. And then continuing that 24/7 servicing line. Nobody wants to talk to AI online, especially if you have problems in the financial services industry, right? If you're at a local or regional bank and you're making these lends, you're dealing with average people's mortgages, you can't, this isn't a space where we can have disconnects in our business. And if you need help immediately. And then branching off of that is integration seminars. Nesto Cloud is constantly evolving. Their platform's changing, they're putting new pieces in. The client needs to be the first to know when this is taking place. We can't have a disconnect between Nesto Cloud and the client. Everyone, not just in each organization needs to be on the same page, but there needs to be a streamline between both entities. And then moving into 4 is boots on the ground. If there's a problem, there's absolutely no excuse that we can't have somebody there to fix this immediately, right? We need everybody, all of our clients need to feel like they are being taken care of at all times, right? As we pioneer into this new age of AI and everything starts scaling up, there's too many people on the fence and there's too much of an addressable market that we can capture. And how we get them off the fence and how we get them to believe is building trust, and this is exactly how we're going to do it.
Excellent. Now let's look at the implementation of this strategy and maybe a little bit on what we're going to do and what it's going to cost. If you look at SaaS companies of this type and look at roles like Chief Customer Officer or Client Representative, typically we're going to see costs in the range of between 200 and 300K Canadian, since these are people who are really going to be on the front lines with deep customer expertise dealing with our customers every day. Now, before we get into a little bit of the finances on the cybersecurity certification, an example that we found here was one from CrowdStrike, which is a leading cybersecurity firm, that we can ensure or get all of our IT people an additional certification for just $250 a test per person, allowing us to further build that accreditedness, customer trust with that cybersecurity element of this business, which a lot of mortgages, banks are extremely concerned with due to the nature of their business. Now, looking at the financial model, ultimately, if you add up all of the salaries of the different people we recommend adding, you get about a 4.5% margin hit here based on our current revenue and those revenue projections, which would mean that these additional customer officers would have to be able to drive revenues of over about 4.5% to their end pay for themselves, and which we'll get into how they'll do that and kind of the numbers around maybe the growth later when we talk about impact.
So talking about timeline for a second, we understand that companies need to be flexible and no timeline can really be set in stone because you're setting yourself up for failure. But looking at some of the things we're pitching and talking about, we see the day one solution, like what are you going to do in your first 24 hours, is go to the market to find the CCO. We believe that this provides immense value, and after you hire a CCO, as soon as possible, preferably someone with a lot of deep experience, someone who's done this before, someone who understands this customer-first philosophy, because we're not looking to just change an org structure. We're looking to add this very customer-first culture to the business. We think that person can then appoint or hire heads of either the commercial sectors or heads of the different businesses we're in, to then hire out heads of specific clients. We're looking for a system where no matter what size client you are, no matter where you are in Canada, you can pick up the phone and be talking to someone who knows your specific case intimately as soon as possible. We then want to look at getting these executives and getting the lead characters in this, the cybersecurity certifications, as well as getting them looking into hiring outside cybersecurity firms if we feel that's necessary. We also want to specialize pitches to specific clients in specific industries. We want to make sure when we're doing pitches, we're bringing them this customer-first approach, and we're showing them on day one, hey, we know your business, we know what you're doing, and we know how we're going to help you. Again, this 24/7 connection with the customer heads. We want, if you have a problem, you pick up the phone, and in 30 minutes, you can be talking to your customer head all the time, someone who knows your business, knows your problems, and can drive the problem up to the CCO, CTO, wherever that needs to be to solve it. So like we've kind of gone through, creating customer-first internal structures, data-driven solutions, consistent value-add implementation, and leadership structure that supports the customer-first approach are the best ways to solve these issues, and that's how we're going to drive home this both culture and physical shift.
Great. Now let's get into what we see as the impact of actually implementing this strategy. According to McKinsey, implementing specific customer relationship people within your business to function throughout the customer lifecycle can actually increase revenues in software businesses up to 20%, which, accounting for that 4.5% margin hit here, means that of the range of different revenue growth or increases that we could see from implementing this new strategy, we could see a 10 to 15% increase in our margins. Additionally to that, this will also increase, we estimate up to 5 to 20% of our Net Promoter Score, up from Nesto Cloud's current rating of 77. Also, with the market and our specific focus with each customer officer on each of our different end markets, with those being traditional banks, credit unions, alternative lenders, and fintech, we're going to diversify our revenues over time. Now, taking a step back and looking at what does all of this mean for our business? What does this mean for our shareholders? What does it mean for our founders? What does it mean for our employees who own stock? This is all really, really great for our customers, but it's also really great for us too. If you're a SaaS business that's higher revenue growth, you have more diversified revenues, you have higher customer satisfaction, you're going to be trading at a higher EV sales multiple and just have a higher enterprise value in the first place, driving value for your shareholders. Now, looking at all of that, we're solving our 3 key problems of overcoming switching cost, becoming a trusted partner, and driving volumes through hiring specific dedicated chief customer officers, getting in new cybersecurity certifications to build trust, and letting those customer officers do their jobs, interact with the client on a daily to weekly to monthly basis to then drive usage. And what this does is fixes that problem that we saw in the projections at the beginning of stagnating revenues, driving revenue growth of upwards of 15% throughout the projection period. And all of that, they're doing it by taking advantage, what the chief customer officers are doing is taking advantage of Nesto Cloud's core competencies of their focus on Canada and their AI first integrations in all of these sales, customer meetings that they're doing with their partners to then drive growth and ultimately value creation for Nesto Cloud, and value for their customers. Thank you, and we're open for questions.
Perfect. So presentation is up. Thank you, delegates. We will now begin the question and answer period. Friendly reminder, the Q&A period will only be for 10 minutes, and take it over to the judges.
I can start. I had a quick question in terms of the split of employees. You talked about a lot about adding customer service people, head of customers, and all of that. What about your tech people?
Specifically as it pertains to like creating a more customer-facing initiative.
Are you hiring more technology people, or are you just focusing on having customers?
We feel that Nesto Cloud already has this fantastic built-out technology platform. The current issue is making sure we are customer-centric. The current technology people are fantastic. They know how to do their jobs, and they know how to do them really well. It's just making sure they're solving the right problems for the customers, and they're solving the problems that the customers are looking for today and the customers are looking for tomorrow that they don't even know about. And we see that being driven by customer-facing people. Now, obviously, businesses are flexible as the next couple of years come and we see how these changes take form. We are open to hiring more technology people. And obviously, as the business grows, as revenue grows, new technology people will be needed over time. But for our pitch, we do believe that the highest value you're going to get is from these customer-facing positions and the people who are on the customer side with the centricity. That's where we see the value.
Yeah, as of right now on the technology side, looking at all of the players in the market, you see Nesto Cloud really leading with their AI-first implementations and solutions. That comes from the technology people already being great. What we need to add is, like Grady said, the customer focus.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the whole implementation when you're bringing in new volumes? Because we know banks are very traditional and slow to move. Mm-hmm. So how does that work when you're setting up your solutions with your new clients?
Yeah, so a big piece of that too, right? And as you mentioned, they're slow moving. Like this is a very drawn out process, right? So like a big piece of that is how much is not just can we throw our platform at you? Great, you're on board now. Here's our software. No. We need to get people in the door, right? It's bringing everything to the client. It's saying and we almost kind of touched on it a little bit in the last question. We have people in this business that know our software really well. How do we translate that now to the people who are using it on a day-to-day basis, right? Because kind of forget the revenue numbers for a minute, right? Like that's how Nesto Cloud gets paid, right? Is by them being able to efficiently and effectively immediately start using the platform. That's great, but to kind of really fully answer your question, this is more of we need the client to feel taken care of and stay with us, because that's really what drives that revenue number, right? Is keeping them on board and getting in front of their face and making sure from day one that we're boots on the ground and everyone knows what's going on.
Right, and I think...
If I could follow up, sorry.
Yes.
I guess to be a little clear, what are the risks you see as you're implementing in these various organizations?
Yeah, so one major risk that I've kind of seen play out in some of these organizations before is you stretch yourself too thin. Mm-hmm. So what ends up happening is you go and it's easier to be like, oh, RBC needs help, right? So we'll go down the street and take care of them, but then, the credit unions in your area, which end up being, that's the biggest growing segment that Nesto Cloud has, right? Is what happens is you stretch yourself way too thin, and now we're not taking care of, the bulk, like the foundation of our customer base and our client base. And so where we kind of mitigate that in this solution is saying we're going to focus on Canada, right? That's Nesto Cloud's bread and butter, and that's where we're seeing this massive explosion in the housing market. So while Encino and ICE are so heavily playing in the United States and Europe and other countries, how do we take care of Canada? How do we make ourselves the number one player here? Because that's what they already do best, and that's where they won't stretch themselves too thin, and we can service everybody in our client base from top to bottom.
Right, and so kind of going back to your first question, also talking about new client acquisition, the main two hurdles we see is the friction in implementing a new software and also the security risk. We kind of touched on those parts, but I think going in with your IT people and saying, we already have a plan for how we can implement it. We're not just saying, oh yeah, we can implement it, but we show them step by step what we want to do in the pitch, so we know we're prepared. We can do this. If you say yes today, we can start tomorrow. And then also the security aspect, really putting them at a peace of mind state where they know their data is secure, their customers are safe, and that they can effectively implement this software.
Would you go on the implementation timeline, please?
Yes.
So, that one. Next one. Yes. What period? Like a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Like I opened up with, these companies need to be flexible. We would love if everything could get implemented tomorrow, but it depends on the internal, how things are moving, how fast. We're really looking for kind of phase 1 to be the next couple months, phase 2 to be the next year, and so on. But all of these items are movable depending on when you could get action on them.
Okay. And to bounce on that, phase 1 could be done in how many?
I mean, we really see things like, it depends on how fast we can hire an outside CCO.
And how fast does it take to hire someone that is making 200K a year?
Yeah, we think
We
probably
would hope
within about 6 months would
Yeah.
be our guess. We would get with a specific hiring team, maybe hire an outside hiring consultant to sort of run that process for us, but really about 6 months to a year. In the model, when we look at hiring all of these new people, we have that starting around the 2027 time.
Okay. Thank you.
For me, you didn't leave much for me to ask. What part of this case challenged you the most or created disalignment among you before you found your sticky thing and got your strategy?
Yeah, it was definitely kind of, we had this pull between, okay, we're going to, hire more people. We want them to focus on specifically those in markets. And, maybe some, kind of thinking at the beginning was, should those be dedicated just salespeople, or should they be in the, kind of room with these customers, like for the life of, once you make that sale, going in and helping them use the product. And from what we were looking at the data on the number of current customers they have, and taking into account that they have volume-based pricing growth, we really thought that a chief customer officer or more customer relationship focused type role would end up being the better solution, because even if we do have long sales timelines, getting these new banks onboarded, they phase out their old solution, we input the new solution. These chief customer officers can immediately get on the ground with our existing clients, help them with the product, and drive usage and drive volumes to increase our revenue before we even start adding new customers.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When you talk about trust, I felt you were focusing on cybersecurity.
Yes.
Isn't there any other items that your strategy need to add?
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So obviously putting a huge name on cybersecurity is a huge deal for us. But another piece to building trust is that client retention issue is felt, if you look at any of these financial services companies that provide, the platform and software-based solutions, trust is huge. And we talked about, people being on the fence, people being unsure about switching platforms, right? If you do a process every day and you get really good at it, you might know there's pain points at it, but you do it every day and it's hard to switch because you have to learn a new thing, right? And also you don't just want to switch because things are volatile, especially in this space. You kind of don't know what you don't know, and that scares people, right? We jumped way too fast right into numbers at the beginning to kind of touch on your last question, and that's where we took a step back and thought, what really moves people, right? What's really going to move clients in this space in particular? And it's building that trust, and how we do that is putting people in front of their face, having a line that they can reach at all times, is making sure that when you switch, you're taken care of and there's no hiccups. Because like we've seen from some of the large players in this specific vertical, the large ones, the succeeders and the winners don't cut corners here. They take care of their clients. If you are too bottom line focused, this is a really awesome case study, honestly, because if you are too bottom line focused and you're too number oriented, it doesn't work. Whoever succeeds in this space, it's pretty kind of cool to see. how they're taking care of people first, and it's driving that bottom line instead of the other way around.
And that's why we dove in and said, we want more customer-focused employees. And these customer heads for your specific company, you're going to sleep better at night knowing that you're not calling your cloud service advisor. You're calling John, who you've met and you've had lunch with 4 times, and who knows your business and your business's challenges. And when you get on the phone with him, you don't need to spend 3 hours breaking down why this is a problem. You could just say, hey, the thing we were talking about last week isn't working, and can you get in the office and help us fix it? And the idea is having people in these cities where someone can be in your office at your desk that day solving your problem, and that builds trust. You're not talking to a company, you're talking to a person who's dedicated to you, and that person knows their line up the tree where, hey, this problem's actually out of my pay grade. This is more of a tech problem that I don't understand. This is more of a larger billing problem that I don't understand. They know, and they have a line to drive it up and get the people who can solve that problem in front of you as fast as possible. This is a game of minutes and hours, not days and weeks. Like, a lot of people are solving problems in weeks. We want to solve problems in hours.
That is the end of our Q&A period. We are unfortunately out of time. Quick round of applause for our delegates. Q&A period has come to an end. Thank you, delegates and judges, for your participation. I will ask everyone aside from the judges to leave the room so that we can start preparing for the next presentation. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll see you later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Perfect.
All right. Now that we're all settled in, hello everyone. My name is Tyson Stock. I will be your timekeeper for the day. Just for confirmation purposes, I'd like to confirm that this is Team D.
Yeah.
Perfect. So basically how this is going to work in terms of ruling, I will show warnings for when there's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds remaining on the timer, as well as a final 10-second countdown in which I will do with my fingers. Once that 10-second countdown is over, I will say stop out loud, which means you must stop talking immediately. Afterwards, a 10-minute Q&A, question and answer period will follow. I would like to remind you all that each team must present for a minimum of 15 minutes, and all team members must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A period. Audience members, we ask that you please place your phones on silent mode and remain seated in the room for the duration of the full presentation and the Q&A period. I will now let the judges introduce themselves. Once they are done, you may begin the presentation and the timer will start. Judges?
Good afternoon. Gabriel Poland, Senior Manager at IG Wealth.
Hi everyone, Eliza Gimli, Manager in Transfer Pricing at EY.
Connie Pacifico, Executive Coach.
Hello, my name is Nada. I'm the lead for the cybersecurity governance at the health program in the province of Quebec.
You guys.
In a sea of digitalization, how can a digital-first company differentiate itself in this changing landscape? Well, our team and I, we think that comes from the human touch. And so today we're so proud to present Rebuilding Nesto Cloud's partner acquisition. So we first started by asking ourselves the question of how can Nesto Cloud grow as an ecosystem growth platform? And after our 3 main points of analysis, which is the high cost and risk associated with switching, lack of trust, and also very few post-integration touchpoints, we found our 2-part solution: acquisition and retention. Firstly, generating more leads and requests for proposals while optimizing the RFP process to increase partner conversion, and implementing a client liaison team in order to ensure post-integration retention. And this leads to 3 main impacts. 11 lenders worked with by 2031 out of the 103 approved lenders nationwide, 26 new employees hired by 2031, and a $45 million NPV by 2031.
So at the moment, for Nesto Cloud to get more customers, they currently go through a 4-step process. To begin that process, they start with approaching the head of mortgages or whatever executives are relevant within this situation. Within this is where they are showing their strategic value and really showing what a Nesto Cloud can really do for the company. Here, that must-win battle is where we are going to get that RFP process triggered and really start the ball rolling on Nesto Cloud being embedded within the bank. Next, we go internally. We go to the operations, risk and compliance teams in order to show that this product is going to be feasible. It is going to be something that is going to be practical for this company to implement. Here, that must-win battle is having internal feasibility and practicality alignment with both Nesto Cloud and any internal stakeholders. Next, we go back to our executives, where those executives take input from their teams and ultimately are sold on implementing our product and approve that RFP. Lastly, and most importantly, is having that long-term retention, where we are going to see our clients and our partners continue to utilize Nesto Cloud within their services into the long term. Now, of course, we want to see that this process is going to result in high retention and high conversion. But unfortunately, that's not the case. In fact, when we look at that first step, only 63% of proposals are actually heard out, resulting in that potential RFP. Next, looking at the internal and final RFP approval, we only see a 45% RFP win rate. And lastly, only 2% of IT leaders fully integrate SaaS platforms such as Nesto Cloud into their company. Ultimately, this is driving that key takeaway of only having 57% of potential client leads result in new, fully integrated clients. This is limiting our growth and making it so that we're not able to take full advantage of all 3 revenue streams within Nesto Cloud. But the key question is, why exactly do we have this low acquisition as well as retention rate? Well, ultimately, this boils down to 3 key pillars. First is that high cost and high risk in switching technology partners. We know banks have a lot of regulatory concerns and a lot of things that they need to make sure they are complying with. And with switching, it comes with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of new risks. In order to mitigate this, we must show how we are going to be able to mitigate those risks and costs through our marketing solutions and also communicate why taking on these additional risks is going to be something worthwhile to the company by showing the value of Nesto Cloud for these companies. Next, the second risk is due to that lack of trust, especially due to privacy and regulatory concerns. This means that we must show effectively how we are complying with privacy and security in our outbound and our marketing strategies, as well as in our long-term retention strategies. Lastly, in terms of that retention, we see few touch points post-integration. We know that at the beginning, as they're starting to get integrated, they have access to experts within Nesto Cloud. However, once that ends and is fully integrated, there's little support from the company that isn't something that you have to pay or actively ask for. There's little touch points that Nesto Cloud is actively starting on their own. This means that in order to mitigate this risk and this key pain point, we need to follow up with partners effectively to keep them engaged.
And with that, we're thrilled to introduce our two-pronged strategy, cloud growth. A two-pronged solution that first looks at how we're improving that lead generation, going on to that RFP process, and then optimizing that process so we can convert more of those high potential clients into long-term partners. And then once we have these partners, looking at the second part of our solution of how we're retaining them in the long term. So jumping into the analysis of that first solution, as Evelyn mentioned previously, our partner onboarding journey is 4 main steps. And so our first solution looks at our acquisition strategy, specifically the head of mortgages, those operational risk and compliance teams, as well as those executives, how we're specifically showcasing our product to convert more of them from that 45% win rate. And so our solution to this starts with a dedicated sales strategy team. This is composed of relationship managers and sales leaders communicating with mortgage specialists with our clients to develop strategies to take advantage of Nesto Cloud's strengths, experience, and that industry knowledge. Specifically, how we're doing this is firstly highlighting those success cases. We already are integrated and partnered into many banks, including IG Wealth Management and BMO. So highlighting how exactly we acquired these clients and how we're going to continue to integrate our software into their daily operations is what we want to be highlighting to these prospective high potential clients. And speaking of those high potential clients, we want to create a short list of specific companies that have similar mortgage models and demographics to what we're looking for. Specifically, that looks at commercial and residential clients. A case study I would like to highlight here is actually our recent partnership with the Bank of Montreal. Specifically, they also specialize in commercial and residential clients, and their partnership with us allowed us to integrate our digital mortgage lending platform into their daily operations. But of course, now that we've acquired those high-level executives, we look at that RFP onboarding process, and it's really split up into 3 main teams: tech, risk and compliance, and operations. In other words, when trying to get approval of our software, we need to go through these 3 teams before we can reach that 45% win rate. So that successful approval of the Nestle Cloud RFP is really generated after the approval of working with our client through these 3 main teams. And so the strategic objective here is reorganizing that team structure and optimizing the process every step of the way. So starting off with that first step of those technology teams, currently what Nesto Cloud does is we meet with those enterprise architects and those product owners to assess the viability and integration readiness of our product. Specifically, we have technology deep dives of what our tech can do for their company. Where we're really taking this one step further is now firstly introducing live product demos. So highlighting the software capabilities, its convenience, specifically our proprietary underwriting and AI software that allows us to find those best mortgage rates for our clients. And second is that API integration, how we're able to generate that end technology and integration with existing banking CRM and third-party systems. Moving on to the second part is that risk and compliance teams. Currently, we see that teams are reviewing Nesto Cloud security posture, regulatory alignment, and adherence to industry standards. Here, we believe the best thing to do is by highlighting and showcasing those industry awards. We've won that CLA Leaders in Lending in 2024 and 2025, and we are also a B Corp certified company. With only 26% of digital lending companies being B Corp certified, we believe that this perfectly plays into our key messaging and product placement. Finally, that operations team. Currently, stakeholders evaluate how the platform addresses those operational pain points and unlocks those efficiency gains. Nesto cites this step as the main hurdle when acquiring our client and going through that RFP process. And so what we want to do here is introduce dedicated onboarding teams to provide easy and seamless integration of our software into our clients' daily operations, while also having that 24/7 live support during that onboarding process to address major concerns of our clients. All in all, we believe that this solution perfectly caters to each step of that process, allowing us to turn that 45% into a greater amount of approval from our clients. And by the end of this evaluation, each group in this process has now had that hands-on experience to the platform's capabilities, ensuring full organizational alignment.
Now that my partner Brandon has identified how we're able to have that bulletproof lead generation strategy, I'm excited to share how we're able to make sure that our clients are feeling supported and are retained throughout the process so that they feel that they're able to use Nesto Cloud to its full capabilities. But first, I wanted to take a step back and launch into a little bit more analysis into how we arrived at this solution. In fact, everybody acknowledges that RFPs are a great way of implementing new strategies for companies to see success. In fact, proposal teams who are using RFP-driven software report more manageable stress levels, and on average, companies see a 61% ROI within the first year. What this goes to show is that RFPs are a proven way of conducting business and integrating software into existing companies. But the problem is that 76% of companies fail to see RFPs that expect to follow through on their promised capabilities. So even though we're promising a lot with our Nesto Cloud technology, not all companies are seeing the full capability and capacity of what we're able to execute. So the key question becomes, how are we able to really make sure that those benefits are reaching our key companies and our clients are seeing the full value add of Nesto Cloud capabilities? Well, we've identified the must-win stakeholder as the actual client account managers. So now that RFPs have been successfully proposed, approved, and onboarded, the end users are those account managers at companies like BMO and IG Wealth Management who are going to be using the Nesto Cloud software in their day-to-day services. So how can we make sure that the Nesto Cloud services are the go-to platform for these end users? We wanted to take a key client such as Dylan, who is a BMO mortgage specialist and somebody who already interacts with services and softwares like Nesto Cloud in his day-to-day operations. So our question becomes, how can we make life as easy as possible for Dylan in his day-to-day activities? Well, in fact, Nesto Cloud has an existing suite of extremely strong post-client servicing strategies with things like always-on servicing, self-serve client portal, collaborative agent tools, and white-labeled experiences. We believe that these are all an asset to Nesto Cloud's existing services, and we want to push them towards our clients without really confusing them in the process. So we believe that Nesto Cloud already offers a suite of streamlined sales servicing. So the answer isn't to necessarily suggest new products, but figure out how exactly we can communicate which product and which tools our clients actually need in their day-to-day activities. We want to make sure that we're able to bridge that barrier between our clients and their access to these different tools. Which is why we're excited to introduce the Client Liaison Team, which will be made of a human element of the support team, as well as a customer service chatbot that is based and trained off of existing service tickets. To expand on this a little bit more, we wanted to really segment these different use cases. For the client support team, we'll be seeing the key use case of high complexity occasional cases. These are the high ticket items that we really expect to happen only on the off chance. Meanwhile, for the daily complex, low complexity cases, we see that largely being tackled by the customer service chatbot that we plan on training and implementing through the course of this solution. The roles are for account managers at a 1:7 ratio, so for human to company, and for customer service chatbots to be roadmapped using existing training so that client data is protected and there's a limited risk of AI hallucinations or general deficiencies in the chatbot service. The key responsibility for the client liaison team is to ensure that there is always a human in the loop, because we want to make sure that our clients understand that we value their data privacy and we protect them at all costs. And we want to make sure that adoption here is as seamless as possible because there's always a human who's overlooking and overseeing that data. On the other hand, the customer service chatbot filters through those low complexity cases and improves that time to response in terms of these tickets so that our customers like Dylan are able to really use and access Nesto Cloud at his convenience. Double clicking into these a little bit more, in terms of the client support team, we really see them being able to fulfill more of a strategic role in client consulting on top of their everyday troubleshooting items. So first, something that we really saw the potential when it came to these client liaison support team members is that they're able to actually flag those underperforming accounts with low usage rates of Nesto Cloud, and that signals low adoption for us. From there, we're able to proactively reach out to these underperforming clients to really schedule chats proactively and diagnose and overcome these issues as they come up. From there, we're able to really continuously monitor these performance and nudge clients to continue to use Nesto Cloud to their full capabilities. On the flip side, we actually see the same kind of role from a customer service chatbot in supporting more of a tactical role in flagging implementation KPIs. So we're able to identify what tactical troubleshooting concerns are coming up and compile these raised points to build an iterative model that grows with the client and suggest new tools that we're able to integrate into the overall Nesto Cloud software to build us a competitive advantage when it comes to our position in the market. Ultimately, this becomes an evolving tool for Nesto Cloud to really compete in this market, as well as work with its clients to build the ultimate suite that serves our clients' needs. Of course, every solution is incomplete without a bulletproof implementation timeline, and our implementation is split into 3 key phases of planning, developing, and launching. We really wanted to separate this out visually versus prong 1, prong 2, and the estimated time to arrival of each of our different prongs. So when it comes to the acquisition phase, we really saw that we're going to focus on assembling a Nesto Cloud client task force to make sure that our clients feel supported, they feel like they're in the loop on all playbooks for success. And for the retention side, we're going to be gathering data on these past troubleshooting tickets. Again, building our chatbot from within and using internal data. In the developing phase, we're going to start by shortlisting mortgage clients to start that staged rollout. By shortlisting companies that are similar to our investors and are able to use as currently onboarded clients, we're able to really scale up that data. From the retention phase, we're going to be building a conversational flowchart for troubleshooting cases by mapping out these different ticket resolution flows. And in the launching phase, we want to begin to reach out to these shortlisted companies and assemble these contact lists so that we're able to have a seamless rollout while piloting the chatbot to the already onboarded companies. And we expect this to take over around 18 months. Here's a look at our Gantt chart in brief, but I'd love to pass it off to Kareem, who'll talk a little bit more about the quantitative metrics of our solution.
And before I get to those important quantitative metrics, just want to highlight some risks that we came across when thinking through the solution. And really the one risk we want to highlight is the changing regulatory landscape that's happening in Canada and the changing standards within the banking industry. And there's 2 parts to it. Firstly, we do want to have that regulatory team consistently monitor and also talk with the banks to walk them through it. But the other part is we actually see it as an opportunity. Given the open banking that's expected to happen within the next few years, and Nesto Cloud having that API integration, we think this presents the biggest opportunity to feasibly and quickly implement it into these banking systems to allow for communication across clients and different banks right away. And now, moving on to the financials a little bit deeper. So as I mentioned at the start of the presentation, we had 11 out of the 103 approved lending platforms in Canada by 2031. And this represented a $45 million NPV. And we want to highlight just how big that figure is. In the past year alone, Canada saw $2 trillion of volume in mortgages across commercial and residential mortgages. And so we think attracting just 10% of this overall industry and getting those take rates on those mortgages does bring this revenue figure quite high and quite quickly. And we can see that costs don't scale necessarily as high. And the way that we went about looking at these costs is, as Amy mentioned, we are restructuring the team slightly. So at first, it's hiring those key hires, and then later, it's changing the Nesto Cloud employee per account manager representative ratio to have more employees internally to be able to deal and have that human touch on our client side. And so the key assumptions here is, again, 10 new lenders that we reach out to per year to get to that ultimate 11 in the 6 years that we projected, and also a pretty conservative RFP assumptions in terms of how many people we reach out to, how many of those actually respond, and how many of those approve the RFPs, just again to bring some conservatism here. And so now that we've walked through kind of the whole solution, I just want to highlight what the solution actually does. On top of adopting to the changing regulatory landscape in Canada, we're adding that human touch to the client representatives and making sure that clients are guided every step of the process when implementing Nesto Cloud. And on top of that, we want to make sure clients know what Nesto Cloud is and how it can help them in the next years to come. Thank you very much, and would like to open the floor to any questions.
Perfect. Presentation is up. Thank you so much, guys. We will now begin the Q&A period. Friendly reminder that the Q&A period does have a relative maximum length of 10 minutes, and we'll take it over to the judges for questions.
The tech team, is it people that you hired or they are already in firm?
Yeah, so just want to clarify there that the entire process, as I mentioned, going to each tech team and operations team, that's all that one sales force, that sales task force that I mentioned at the beginning. And we believe this is the best team to do it because they have a full holistic understanding of our organization and every step of it. And it's why we believe that having a dedicated team to not only reach out to those executives to get those RFP processes in motion, but then also the ones to carry it out will allow them to really fully have an understanding of the organization's structure as a whole.
But they already work at Nesto, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Perfect. But they were just changing roles?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 months to establish a new team, train them, and basically make sure that they work well together is enough?
Well, we believe that that's a sufficient amount of time because, again, they already are at Nesto, as you mentioned. And simply that restructuring process, we believe, is something that can be done fairly quickly. And it's why we believe that a 3 months projection is about right for that.
Perfect. If I may add on, just given Nesto Cloud's scale as well, we looked on LinkedIn, not sure if it's the most accurate source of information, but we saw 28 active employees. So given that it's a pretty small company, we understand that the people already have been working together. So we think the transition itself is not going to be as difficult. It's more so just the switching of the role and the responsibilities.
Thank you.
With respect to your client liaison support team, you're talking about flagging underperforming accounts with low usage rates. What are the low usage rates? Like, what are the capabilities you were talking about?
Yeah, of course. So we really saw that as more of a strategic role that these client liaison leads could sort of fulfill, so that they're able to build and ameliorate some of these low performing accounts. So in the case it was mentioned that your company is struggling at this time with some accounts underperforming in terms of the actual account owners, like the BMO mortgage specialists, not using the tools that RFPs are being serviced. So for example, for our company, the BMO account specialists aren't using our software even if it's available to them. So we really want to flag which companies and which client companies are not using our software right now and raise those points with them directly and by proactively reaching out to those client account managers.
I'm just going to jump off on your question. I wasn't sure I understood on your key takeaways, the account manager at a 1-to-7 ratio, 1-to-7 with the banks or the end user?
Yeah, I'm happy to hop in there. Not 1-to-7 with the banks. We understand that with banks, yes, one part is integrating to the bank, but then there are also kind of the mortgage teams divided, first of all, regionally, provincially, and everything. So we wanted to look at more of the provincial and regional level and work with those on a 1-to-7 ratio.
That's where 1-to-7 is. Okay, thank you.
Could you elaborate a bit more on your implementation KPIs?
Yes. So firstly, just want to, unfortunately they didn't show up there. Just want to say, so we got a financial appendix right from the case, and a couple of things that I did there is I interpolated that we have 3 clients that we currently work with, which is IG Wealth, BMO, National Bank. And so we saw that gives us a roughly $8.9 million implementation fee per one of those clients, and also seeing the origination processing and user fees per year, can also divide that by 4, given that Nesto we didn't have to do an implementation cost, but they are still using the software. So that's how I interpolated those revenue figures from that. And then we started looking at the number of approved lenders, which is 103, and this comes from CNBC. Brought that down by looking at how many respond to RPFs, how many actually approved the RPFs and wanted to be more conservative there. And then also added, so then we got how many of these are going to be new approved clients, how many total lenders are we working with, and decided to add a 2-year kind of sort of weight on the client readiness, because we understand it's probably not going to be fully operational. Yes, it might be implemented, but the clients might also be waiting for those regulatory changes. And so from there, we looked at overall Canadian mortgage volume, also interpolated from the Canadian mortgage. I forgot what the full CMHC, exactly. And so looked at that, looked at the volume, looked at the lender share, and then also had that decrease over time for also the implementation revenue, because we looked at two parts. We looked at implementation revenue and also the take rate and servicing revenue. Implementation decreases because we'll be working with smaller companies, and also we think we can implement a little bit more effectively going forward. Take rate and servicing revenue per client also decreasing because we already work with some of the biggest approved lenders, so that's going to be decreasing as well. And so that brought us to our revenues here. As for the cost, if I'm going on the right side, so what I interpolated was we had a 28 employee base. Assume 40% of those were sales or integration-based employees. That gave us around 11 sales-based employees. And then also looked of the lenders that we reached out to per year, what's our ratio of sales employee per new lender? Wanted to bring that up to 2 over the period, and so that's how we projected the amount of employees that we wanted to get over this 6-year period.
If you go back to the RFP onboarding process,
Just a little bit more. There we go.
okay. You went on optimization, but my question for you, if you had more time to prepare this, what would you consider more to do at this level?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, if you want to just go back another slide to the operations team specifically, this is where we see is like sort of, I guess, the largest pain point out of them all. This is something that Nestle Cloud has also mentioned, simply because it's here where they're looking at how easy it is to implement our service into their current client offerings. And this plays into sort of that second prong that Amy mentioned of how we're really keeping that client all the way through. Having these liaison teams to have that seamless integration is really we see as the biggest solution to that operational pain point, because it's allowing our software to be easily integrated into the client services as easy as possible.
So it's the experience, you're focusing on the importance at that level in order to get the ROI?
Yeah.
If you had more time to invest on this case, which area would you invest more on?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think another statistic that we looked at the CMHC, okay, got it this time, perfect, is we actually mapped out and tracked, I wish I added it in the appendix, but the share of banks, credit unions, and also the other lending platforms. So I think we would have liked to go deeper into how we can tailor the solution to target each one specifically, and maybe also mapping out how those change over the next few years as the regulations in the banking industry change, where we understand that a lot of these digital platforms are going to have a little bit more of the market share, especially with mortgage renewals happening more often. So I think it would be more tailoring it to each specific one so that we don't just have kind of more of a generic solution that works for banks right now, credit unions, but maybe not everything else. So just looking into those aspects.
Mm-hmm.
If I was the buyer, if I could make my decision today, what do you want me to remember to choose this solution?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think there's really two main parts. Is one, Nesto Cloud, and well, we are Nesto Cloud, so we're here with you every step of the way. So we don't want you to have any questions along the process, and we're going to guide you through it to make sure that A to Z you're there, and there's really no hiccups along the way. And two, given the nature of the software service itself, implementing it prepares you for the changing regulatory landscape. So you can fix this issue right now rather than waiting 2 years and trying to work on kind of an outdated system in the internal banks or platforms that you may be working with. Thank you.
Is that all from the judges? We have time for one more question if you guys would like. You guys are all done? Perfect. Well, round of applause. All right, amazing. The question and answer period is up. Thank you, delegates. Thank you, judges, for your participation. I will ask everyone, aside from the judges, to leave the room so they can start the deliberation process. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gonna go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm back.
No problem.
Thank you.